So here's a stark reminder that other countries don't have the same kind of free speech protections as the U.S. This is from The Independent. Man who taught pet pug to give Nazi salutes and posted footage on YouTube found guilty of a hate crime. And then you have a quote here from the sheriff who said, "In my view, there is no doubt that it's grossly offensive." So the guy's name is Mark Meechan. He's 30 years old, and he taught his girlfriend's pug to react to the words, "gas the Jews," and the pug would do a Nazi salute. And the video got 3 million hits. He said that he only intended the video to get 7 views because he just wanted to show his friends because he thought it was funny. Now, in the wake of this, he's lost multiple jobs because apparently somehow through the grapevine, the jobs heard that he did this and then they were outraged and they let him go. Now, he swears up and down that it's a joke. His YouTube channel's name is Count Dankula. So this is happening in Scotland. And at the trial, they had somebody from a Jewish Scottish group give testimony about how they lost family members in the Holocaust. And he's facing up to 6 months in prison. He's found guilty. They didn't do the sentencing yet where they say exactly how much time he's going to spend behind bars, but he was found guilty. So listen, man, this is one of the ways in which the U.S. is very different from other countries. And I'm American to my core on that front, and I don't think it's because I'm biased in favor of America, because I shit on America all the time when I think we're dead wrong, like our rampant militarism and our shitty healthcare system. So it's not about me being biased for tribal reasons in favor of America's system. I just think our system is objectively better when it comes to issues like this. Because honestly, this is lunacy. Now, so he was joking, that's point number one, and I believe it based on the preponderance of the evidence. But listen, even if he wasn't joking, that's not something you should get locked up for. So, I mean, I shouldn't even have to say this next part because it's so fucking obvious that it almost is outrageous. I have to even say it, but obviously Nazism is horrendous. It's the worst, one of the worst ideologies ever. Hitler is one of the world's worst criminal, genocidal maniacs. Do I blame somebody for being offended by this guy's joke? No, I don't even blame you for being offended by the joke. If you are offended by the joke. Because, yeah, that's gas the Jews is a gross fucking thing to say. But my disagreement with people is, even if you're offended by it, I don't care. Because that's not something you get to lock somebody up in a cage for. And again, that should be obvious. Because you know what? Everybody's offended by something. Okay? To me, you know what's offensive? Listening to a Ted Cruz speech. Because all he does is lie. Smarmy, smug way of time, Ted Cruz. Me. His smarmy, smug-ass way of talking. His either fake or real Christian fundamentalism. His belief in deregulating Wall Street, which will lead to the next giant crash. He's a total and complete sellout to his donors. He never met a war he didn't like. The list goes on and on. So hearing Ted Cruz say anything is grossly offensive to me. But I'm not arrogant enough to say, if you offend me, you should get locked up. I'm not arrogant enough to believe that because I think that's honestly stupid. Because then what you're saying is, we're going to micromanage everybody's feelings and do real-world physical harm to people based on feelings. And this guy's of no threat to anybody, you know. And don't get me wrong, so in the American system, we have a totally free speech absolutist system. But you're not allowed to make direct threats of violence. And I agree with that. That should be illegal. You can't make a direct threat of violence against somebody. That's illegal, and that should be illegal. This is not a direct threat of violence. It's a guy fucking around with a dog. And even if he was actually anti-Semitic and he was fucking around with the dog, I still would say that's not reason enough to lock him up. Now, if that same guy said, I'm going to kill my Jewish neighbor whose name is whatever, and I'm going to do it on Tuesday at 7, lock that fucker up. But that's not what he said. That's not what he did. And it appears based on the preponderance of the evidence, he was joking. And listen, when you do this, it has the opposite of the intended consequence. Because what they're trying to do is say, Anti-Semitism is wrong, Nazism is wrong, super far-right ideology is wrong, and that's why we need to crack down on this. But guess what you just did, you fucking idiots? You just made a martyr out of this guy. And even though he might not actually be a far-right Nazi sympathizer, or maybe he is, I don't know. But now you made it so that people who are actual Nazi sympathizers and far-right-wing lunatic asshole pricks, now they all rally around this guy as a cause and say, look at how victimized we are. I told you that we're not the problem. Everybody says we're the problem. Really? Are we the people locking people up for jokes? So I told you all along, we're victims and you're making them fucking martyrs. And then that's how you start to get those insane ideologies more adherents. Because you just gave them a victim narrative. And when they have a victim narrative, that becomes a powerful thing that can hook people in. So don't make them victims. How about that? How about that? How about say, yeah, you fucking idiot, you want to joke in your corner of the internet, or you want to be actually racist or bigoted in your corner of the internet? Fine. We're just going to look at you like the side clown show you are, because that's what you are. But when you act like, oh, we need to crack down on them and we need to do it now, you're making them out to be a bigger threat than they are. And then the fact that you're actually persecuting one of them, who may or may not actually be one of them, because I think this was probably just a joke, but you're still going to have genuinely hateful people now rally around them and say, see, told you we were the victims all along. The narrative you've heard is wrong. Clearly we're the victims. And look, they want to take away our free speech rights. They don't even think we should have the ability to joke. So don't do it, man. And this has been my argument across the board. I mean, even with fucking Milo with his Berkeley thing, they were like, Antifa was like, oh, we're not going to allow his fucking speech. He's so terrible. And then guess what? They rioted. It made national news. And an hour and a half later, instead of Milo giving a speech to an auditorium of 100 people, he was giving it to 17,000, not even 70,000, probably 700,000 people on Fox News. But I think you give them more power than they deserve when you give them a victim narrative and a martyr complex. Especially when it's a case of actually making them a victim. Like, this guy's actually a victim now. So I don't know if he was... I think he was joking, but let's say for a second he wasn't, and he was actually anti-Semitic. You just made an anti-Semitic prick somebody who can be sympathized with. Why would you do that? So this is not... It's just a terrible idea. It always has the unintended consequence when you try to crack down and control speech. And you want to know what happens when you do the opposite? Take a look at what happened with the assholes wearing the Dockers and the golf shirts. No offense to golf shirts. I wear them all the time. I like golf. But the guys who did the Tiki Torch protest where they were saying, don't take down this Confederate monument. I'm so triggered by your microaggression of taking down the Confederate monument. I'm a snowflake. I need a safe space. What happened when they did that protest? What happened the next protest? Like a week later, there was another protest. There were like tens of thousands of counter-protesters, and only like a dozen dudes came out on the side of the white supremacists that time. Because you let them speak, you give them a fucking, forum where they can do it, and then, yes, the good ideas will beat the bad ideas. And everybody sees it, and they go, wow, that's terrible. And then they counter-protest, and the counter-protest has a lot more power. The only thing you can't do is say, no, we're going to ban you from having your event in the first place to the racist assholes. You can't do that. You can't say, we're just going to stop you. You're not allowed. We're going to ban you from doing it. You can't speak your mind. You can't protest. So stop. This is not, and I think they mean well. The people who are like, no, we're not going to do this. They mean well, but they're just wrong on the substance of it. And they're wrong on the principle of it. And as this old saying goes, it's been said by multiple philosophers throughout time, but I think it's true. If you don't believe in free speech for those who you disagree with the most, you don't believe in it at all. It's so easy to say I agree with it when it's somebody who you ideologically agree with. The real test of whether or not you believe in it is if it's somebody you despise. And that's why I'm very critical on the right-wing so-called free speech warriors, is because, notice, they only talk about it when they agree with the people who are getting censored. That's great. I agree. You shouldn't censor those people. But why the fuck are they not coming out in favor of free speech rights when it's a Palestinian professor who, by the way, pro-Palestinian speakers, pro-BDS speakers, are routinely banned from giving speeches at campuses. So what happened? You're not actually principled on these issues if you're not protesting in favor of the person you disagree with. And they never say anything when it's the person they disagree with. So that's why I'm so hard on the right-wing so-called free speech warriors. But yeah, this is crazy. I stand in solidarity with this douchebag YouTuber. I think I probably wouldn't get along with him personally, but the fact that he's going to jail over a prank online really speaks to the current state of affairs with respect to free expression and free speech, and it's unacceptable.